Welcome to Do Not Disturb. Today we're reading a story from r/scary stories called My Brother Didn't Leave His Room for 3 days. My parents wouldn't let me check on him. Now before we start, please make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get into the story. On the third night, Jacob didn't come out of his room. I got the courage to bring it up to my mom. People don't sleep for this long, I said. She was cooking a casserole, the 6th one this week. We were running out of stuff in the fridge from the leftovers, but she just kept making more. I would watch her from the corner of the kitchen, her posture curved and her newly grayed hair hanging over the food. I walked over, tugged at her sleeve, but she didn't respond. She was slathering butter on the top crust. Mom, I said, did you hear me? He needs his strength, she said. We can't be bothering him. Before I could say anything, Dad walked in, his eyes red and swollen, but he was smiling. He had 3 cans of Coke in his hands. I'm starving, he said. I still have the taste of that horrible cafeteria food in my mouth. You would think hospitals had good food for how much money they make, Mom said. I know, right? Dad said. He placed the Cokes on the counter. Mom didn't want us to go near Jacob's room, but I was getting worried. I peered out from the kitchen. His room hung at the end of the hallway, like an abandoned lighthouse. The only sign of life being the NY Yankees poster taped to his door. Near the ground, there was a small sliver of space to see if he had turned on his lights. It was still dark. It had been like that for the last 3 days. Now, my first thoughts on the story so far is, what's going on? I think my first thought is that he's dead. I think he's dead and that the parents don't want to cope with it, which honestly, like my mind as like a future parent, I think I would not be able to cope if my child had died. Like I would probably be this unhealthy too. Like I'm not gonna lie, like if my child died in their room, and like it kind of depends what it was for, but if it was natural or like something like that, I probably wouldn't cope that they were dead. Like honestly, like my mental, like because I already dealt with like a lot of mental illness and stuff before in my life. Like a child dying would actually probably just activate the worst thing ever, and I would probably just keep on pretending that they were alive. Like, do you know those there's like these TikToks and there's like short films about it and stuff where if like a child dies, a person gets like a baby doll and like treat it like a child, like they treat it like it's their kid. I feel like that's something I would do, honestly. Like I don't think I would be able to cope at all. Like I would probably treat the baby doll like a child, and like if nobody else knew that they were dead, I couldn't promise that I would say that they were dead until I could cope that they were dead. Like hopefully I have a partner that is more stable than I am, that will be able to be like, hey, we have to tell them that our child died. And I'm like, but I feel like they're not dead. I would probably go like full crazy maniac. I'd be like, they're not dead. So I feel like that might be happening, and both of the parents are like, they're not dead. They're not dead. Okay, let's get back into the story. I turned to my mom. Shouldn't we check on him? I asked. I didn't know why places like Wendy's or Burger King didn't pull up little shops in the hospital, Dad went on. I mean, you have hundreds of people who are stuck in there for days on end. That's consistent business. It's all politics, Mom said. They sign these big contracts that are impossible to break. Right, that makes sense, right? Dad was standing next to Mom now, his face inches from the casserole. He took a long sniff. Ah, he said, smells great. Do you want some of the leftovers while this finishes in the oven? She asked. I think we still have some from yesterday. Wasn't the spinach and ricotta one good? Very good, very, very good, he said. I couldn't stop eating it. Jacob's gonna devour these when he gets his appetite, Mom said. I turned back and took a step into the hallway. The distance between me and his room felt long and narrow, like a high wire. When I got away from the casserole smell, I hit a different smell. It reminded me of old gym socks. Even with Mom's array of candles and incense, I still smelled it. It cut through everything. The last time I saw Jacob was on the drive home from his treatment. His face was pale green and his eyes kept rolling back. Mom said I had to keep talking to him to keep him focused. I told him about my friends from school and how they kept pranking the teacher by putting tacks on her chair. It wasn't true. I saw it on TV once, but I was running out of material. It didn't matter though. Jacob didn't even respond. All he did was cough. Pink drool was spilling onto his t-shirt. Okay, well, I feel like this kind of changes things. I didn't know that Jacob was originally sick until this point, and the rest of the audience didn't either. I didn't know Jacob was sick. So I feel like this is different. Oh, it might actually be what I'm saying, that he's probably dead and they don't want to admit that he's dead. Because if you're dealing with a kid that has an illness and they were sick for a long, long time and you were constantly trying to help them and constantly trying to make sure they don't die, and then they suddenly do die, and it's not so sudden, but it's still your child, so it feels sudden, it's a young person dying. I feel like a parent's mindset would probably, if you're mentally ill, you're already dealing with the fact that he was so sick to a point he wasn't even responding to you. He's not even responding, he's that sick. I would probably lose my mind as a parent. I'd probably just be like, he's still alive. He's still alive. He's still alive. Being so positive, even though he's dead. He's dead. Okay, back to the story. Danny, Mom said, why don't you heat up some of those leftovers? We're all craving that spinach and ricotta casserole. I can't stop thinking about it, Dad said. I was dreaming about it last night. I ignored them. I kept my focus on my brother's door. I didn't dream about the casserole like Dad did. I kept having a different dream. My brother was running into my room and flicking my ear. It was a game we used to play. We would tiptoe up to the other one's door, then wait for our moment. Then the attacker ran in and got 1 or 2 good flicks before retreating. In my dream, though, Jacob would run in and flick me, but I wouldn't move. I just stood there. He would flick and laugh and then flick some more. Sometimes he would flick so hard my ear flew off. Earth to Danny, Dad said, snapping his fingers in my face. He was standing in front of me, blocking my view of Jacob's door. Do you mind heating up 4 portions of casserole in case Jacob wants some? We're going to eat that before this next casserole because we want to make sure Jacob's able to try it because, in my opinion, it was definitely one of your mom's best. I looked up at him and held my eye contact. I couldn't say what I was thinking, so I wanted Dad to feel it. Maybe if I stared long enough, my feelings would translate. I am definitely that type of person. I am definitely that type of person to be like, I'm just gonna death stare you and hope that you understand how I feel. Because sometimes okay, so a lot of my family speaks Spanish, right? And I don't speak Spanish, but I can usually understand what you're saying. And sometimes I forget that. And they'll be talking about me or talking about someone or something of my family, and I stare and I'll make a mean stare, or they won't talk directly to me because I don't speak Spanish, but I understand what you're saying usually most of the time, and so they'll speak not directly to me, and they'll say something and I'm like, I know what you're saying. You're not sly. It's when you go to the nail salon and then they're all talking about you in Chinese and you're just I know what you're saying, bitch. Like, I post up and like you don't know how to respond in their language or whatever, so you just like you just stare. You just stare at them, you just stare and like death stare, and you want them to feel it. You want them to feel your death stare to translate your feelings. And you know, I understand the pettiness and I respect it. Okay, back to the story. But Dad looked at me for only a moment, then away. In that brief connection, though, I saw something I didn't want to see. It was like staring down the tunnel of the world's deepest well. Come on now, he said. He grabbed my shoulders and turned me around. His voice got heavier. You're going to want to heat up each piece individually, because if you do them all at once, they won't get enough heat through the pieces, and you'll probably have a couple that are too hot and others too cold. And then Jacob won't get the full picture of how good these casseroles are. Dad let go of my shoulders and walked ahead of me, but I stayed in the hallway a moment longer. I turned to look at my brother's door one last time. I fantasized about walking up to it and going inside, but I was afraid Mom would yell at me. Besides, I never liked going in there. He had a puke bucket next to his bed, which always had pink splatters in it, and there were always clumps of hair on his pillows. Back before the last hospital visit, Mom would make me go in there and talk to him, but I always made up some excuse, like I had a cold and didn't want him to get sick. When I couldn't get out of it, I would stay in there for a few minutes and watch him try to breathe. I would tell him about some TV episode I saw, then run back to my room. I looked up. I thought I was walking back to the kitchen, but I was moving towards the door. I didn't want to, but I kept moving, like my limbs were controlled by a puppeteer. I put my hand on the doorknob. I turned. The gym sock smell filled my head like helium. Through the darkness, I could make out a sliver of my brother's face. The soft evening light fell on him. His eyes were open, staring at the ceiling. His arms were straight as rulers, and his fingers curled like a blooming rose. I walked to the side of his bed. Red spit fell off his lips. He looked like a frowning clown. I flicked his ear. It was hard. I walked out and closed the door behind me. As I walked back, I seemed to forget what was inside of his room looked like. With the door closed, it could be anything. Jacob could be doing jumping jacks, or reading comic books, or plotting his next ear flick attack. When I walked into the kitchen, I heated up 4 plates of spinach and ricotta casserole. When they were done, I wrapped Jacob's in a plate with an aluminum foil and put it in the oven to keep warm. Then Mom, Dad, and I sat in the dining room and ate in silence. That's the end of the story. I'm low-key confused. Okay, so he had a frown. I thought this was going to be a mental thing from the parents, but it seems like it's connected to the son, like it's connected to Jacob and his room or something somehow. And I think it's meant to be supernatural because like he has like red, I'm assuming blood. He has blood streaming from his mouth like as if like a clown. So I'm assuming he kind of looks like Pennywise, you know, but like maybe into a frown instead of a smile. And he just has that Pennywise type of face. And so to me, I'm just a little confused. I'm only a little confused because it just doesn't make sense to me that it's supernatural. Like, I just thought he was dead and maybe the girl would be like, you know, like she would just go and like want to alert the authorities, but her parents wouldn't let her because they're like, Jacob's not dead, you know? So I kind of thought it was that, but then like the room forces her to walk into it. I thought it would be her curiosity that leads her there, but it was a forceful pull, and like that's supernatural. And then like when she leaves, she kind of forgets everything, which, you know, like explains how the parents kind of feel and stuff. Like they kind of forget and they assume like he's just some like la 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 like kid like doing activity and stuff. Sorry for audio listeners, I just did sound effects. But I'm like, to me, I I don't know, the ending doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm like, why wouldn't they, I don't know, why wouldn't they be more of a mental thing than like, why is it supernatural? It doesn't have to be supernatural. Some things can be scary without being supernatural. But anyway, let's read some of the comments. This comment is from tvarious2461, 5 years ago. This is good, like crazy good, but also heartbreaking. The way we lie to ourselves to keep our grief at bay. Wonderfully delivered. I saved this, and the next time I get an award, I'll be back. Okay, so I guess what people are taking from this is that like he's just dead and that it was grief. So maybe it's not supernatural. Maybe it's more like a mental pull that pulled her towards that door because like she needed to know what was going on. So honestly, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, now it is like more of my theory, like it's a mental thing rather than it's the door, like it's grief that is controlling them, which honestly, if my child like had died, oh, I would probably be the exact same way. I would pretend like it wasn't happening because there's no way mentally I could probably handle that. Like I could not handle my child dying. Like oh my gosh, it's either drugs or I'm pretending that my child is still alive, and there's no what if or there for me. Like it would be I'm pretending my child is alive or they're alive in my mind, and there's no what if or. Okay, next comment. Jan Liz 79 from 5 years ago. I was so happy they were not eating Jacob. Still sad that this is how they hung on to him. Another person replied, Pokey Moonshine from 5 years ago. After one too many Arth's no sleep stories, same. Okay, I understand. I didn't even think they would go into a direction of cannibalism, like they were eating Jacob, but like they were mentioning casserole a lot, like making casserole, which was a little confusing for me because to me that didn't really play a huge part, was the casseroles. But like in grief, I feel like if you're like grieving, you are gonna try to stick with the same routines, and if they knew Jacob liked casserole when he was alive, I feel like I would also probably make casserole every day. I wish they would say that that was like his favorite food or something, you know, like just to like clarify that little detail. But like maybe it's just a grief thing and having a routine to keep going, like kind of makes sense, I guess, but you know, still a little confusing. Next comment, but doesn't he decompose? Someone replied to that. Mom is hiding the stench with incense and sprays. I think also good smells, but it's not going to last for that long. Yeah, I feel like that's like, I'm like trying to think of the perspective of like the mom and the dad. It's like, I feel like I would be so similar, like sadly, like that is a sad thing to admit, but like if my child like had died, like already, I don't even have kids, but if my child died, oh, I would be the worst person to be around, honestly, because I would pretend the child is alive. And if I was the only person that knew my child died, like, oh, future partner of mine, future husband, future wife, whatever, future partner of mine, you better have a better mental state than I do. Well, like, not even better, but like at least be logical and be like, okay, we have to take him to the morgue, we have to do this, or like something like that, because I think I would be the same way like the mom, like until I possibly could not ignore it anymore. Like I could not ignore it, and I'd probably go into the room every single day still, like I would probably like try to braid their hair or like, you know, just connect with them still have that connection. You know, I know there's a lot of crazy people that actually do that, but they do it for different reasons. Like they're not a parent grieving, they're just a person that like has like some weird fantasy or something. Like, no, that would not be my case. My case would probably be like the grief would be too much for me to handle, and I think the only way my mind could cope is pretending as long as possible that they're still alive and still holding on to that connection. Like I would probably put a lot of incense, sprays, perfume, like around the house, candles. Like I would try to hide the stench from my mind. Like I would try to pretend like everything was normal. So like, I don't know. Honestly, I'm like, yeah, it's sad, but like, I feel like that's the only way I could respond to if like a child died. Like I would be so mentally deranged, probably, like not even depressed. Like I already have depression. I feel like I would hit like my manic episodes again, because like I used to be manic. So I would probably hit a manic episode and like pretend they're still alive, if that makes any sense. Or I would get a doll, that to pretend like they're still alive. I would feed it. I already do that. Like I want kids so badly, and I already do that. Like I have 2 baby dolls over there. I have a animatronic baby as well, like in my room at home, because like I'm at my grandma's house right now, so I only have 2 babies. But when I'm back at home, I have another baby that's animatronic and it breathes and stuff. And like to me, that's how I cope with like not having a child yet. Do you get what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like I would be so similar. Everyone else, like a lot of people thought that the casseroles were made of Jacob. And honestly, I guess that's a valid point, because like a lot of stories do lean into cannibalism. Like I do, like with a lot of my scripts I'll lean into cannibalism, but like I haven't like made them yet or something. And so like I guess that's a fair thought. But also they did mention that the casserole was broccoli and ricotta, the cheese. I don't know how to say it correctly, but ricotta. And I'm like, to me that means no, they're not made of Jacob, because it's a vegan casserole. People are just like, yeah, that's heartbreaking. This commenter said, Ted Turner, 1966. This is a true heartbreaking horror story. The loss of a son and a brother, and the parents in denial, and dealing with their grief in the only way they can without completely losing it. The brother, brokenhearted, but unable to grieve because he has to go along with his parents' dysfunctional way of dealing with their loss. You are a truly great writer. Yeah, honestly, that's how I feel too. Like, it's heartbreaking and terrifying, because what makes it so terrifying for me is that I think with my past mental illnesses, like sadly, I think that might be how I would react. Like, hopefully that never happens to me and I never have to deal with losing a child. But like, I feel like I would react the exact same way. Like, I don't think I could handle it. And so hopefully like I have people around me enough like for them to be able to kind of help me handle it. Oh, my teeth are so white right now, sorry. But hopefully like I'll have people around me that can help me handle it more than I can, because personally I don't think I could handle the grief that comes along with like losing a child. I just don't think I could handle it. I don't think I would be able to process it. I don't think anything good could come out of me losing a child. Which nothing good could come out of like anyone losing a child, yes, like that's true. But I just think I would grieve in such a way that would be a horror story. Like, it would be like this. Like, I would have to believe my child was still alive in some type of capacity. Like, I know myself, I know my past mental illness stuff, and like even now I still have like babies and stuff because I don't have a child yet, and that's how I pretend I have a child, like I don't think I would be built for that. Okay, there is someone else. This commenter posted, did you know? Well, I probably know this, but I think your brother has leukemia. You most likely already know, but I guess I was just telling everyone else. Yeah, I was a little confused on the illness that they had, but this commenter says they probably have leukemia. Someone replied, suspicious llama 123. The brother is dead already for probably about 3 days. The parents are in serious denial and can't accept Jacob's death, so they act like he's just sick, like everything's fine. The mom keeps making meals for Jacob. The dad talks about Jacob like he's still alive. It seems to be the living son, Danny, who knows something is very wrong with his brother, but eventually just decides to give in. That's why, near the end, Danny is acting like his parents. Oh, okay, so it's not supernatural. That's all I needed to make sure of, because I was a little confused about, because it seemed supernatural, but also it seemed like mental. I guess it is what I was saying like before. It's like a way of grief, and I guess the child is just having to kind of go along with the parents' grief, which I hope that never happens to me, because like if I like can't deal with something, I hope I can be a strong enough person and parent to deal with it for the sake of my children. Like if one child died, right, but I have like 2 other kids, like I hope that I have the mental strength to pull myself together and deal with it for the sake of my children and to help them grieve properly. And then after they grieve, yeah, I'm gonna grieve. Yeah, but I will like hope that I have the strength to kind of suppress how I feel to help my children. Okay, Danny is acting like his parents. He's not able to accept it, but his parents are acting like everything is okay. So Danny gives in instead of coping in a healthy manner. You can tell that Jacob is dead by how Danny described the awful smell in Jacob's room, how Jacob was positioned in the bed. The body is stiffening, how Jacob was described as green, and with his eyes rolled back. Danny's thoughts when he closed Jacob's door, that Jacob could be doing anything, any number of normal things, but when you open the door, his corpse is slowly beginning the stages of decomposition process. I think that's what it's called, I don't know. And the behavior of the parents. They keep making Jacob's food, but it's never eaten, so they keep it as leftovers. Oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense, because that little detail, I don't know why it didn't click to me, but like Danny was saying that like their parents kept, his mom kept making a bunch of like casseroles, even though they had plenty of leftovers in the fridge from the casseroles. So it was just like confusing me a little bit, but I guess it's because Jacob isn't eating any of the food and they're making big portions to feed them and Jacob. So I guess all of the leftovers are technically Jacob's leftovers, which, okay, that makes a lot more sense. I needed someone to explain that to me because I was very, very confused. Okay. They keep making Jacob's food, but it's never eaten, so they keep it as leftovers. When Danny flicks Jacob's ear, the ear is hard. Jacob hasn't turned on his lights in days, etc. And I think that deep down, the entire family knows it. The mom doesn't like it when Danny goes in Jacob's room, before she was okay with it. The parents aren't concerned that Jacob hasn't turned on his lights in days or eaten in days. She's putting up candles and incense to cover up the gym sock smell of rot. The dad's eyes were red, like he'd been crying before bringing the drinks. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna start crying. I am going to start crying. That actually makes me so sad. I didn't even like remember that detail. Like the OP Danny said that their dad was like had like swollen red eyes before like bringing the drinks in or like before coming home, something like that. And like, you know, as if you're crying, as if you had been crying and like their dad had those eyes. And I guess I didn't like connect the dots that like the parents do know, but they're just trying to grieve in the way that they can. And yes, it's not healthy, but I feel like every grieving process is different. And if you're a person that doesn't have like a lot of other people coming in, like it kind of sounds like it's mostly Danny, Jacob, and their parents in their life and not like a bunch of other factors. Like I feel like if this were to happen like in my family, like my grandparents and I are really close. My brothers, I have 2 brothers, I have my parents, but like we have like all of each other. So I feel like it would be kind of impossible for a situation like this to happen because like we have so many people and we all have different mindsets. So none of us would be able to be the exact same. I'd probably grieve like this. Well, my brother would probably be more logical and be like, we have to go to the morgue, you know, like stuff like that. And so I feel like it couldn't happen in my family. But if you only had like your parents and you're dealing with your brother's death, I feel like it'd be very easy for something like this to actually happen in real life. Because like the dad, I don't know if the mom is acknowledging that Jacob is dead, but she won't let Danny go into the room. So to me, that is an acknowledgement. Because she's not, I don't want you to go in the room because Jacob needs his rest. So like she obviously kind of knows, you know, because before she was trying to force Danny to go into the room. And the dad like showing up crying, trying to pretend like the dad is more pretending like Jacob doesn't exist. Like I know the comment right here is like he's pretending like Jacob is fine and exists, you know, but I feel like the dad is more pretending like he doesn't exist. Like he's trying to talk about everything else except Jacob. Because like he can't handle it. Okay, let's continue. At the end, the family just sits at the table in silence, eating the leftovers that Jacob didn't eat. It's like a grim silence. The parents, way deep down, know Jacob is gone, and Danny seems to have gotten the picture. But his family is grieving, and he's grieving. and they haven't been able to find a way to cope with the death of Jacob. Not a healthy coping mechanism, at least. The mom is coping in her own way by making food for her dead son, and the fact that it's all casseroles makes me think that the casserole was Jacob's favorite. That's what I was thinking, that Jacob's favorite food was probably casserole, and that's why they're making it so much. Because, like, okay, so I know this is a little off, but, like, it connects. So, like, I used to deal with a really bad disorder, like eating. I used to not be able, like, I still kind of deal with it. Like, sometimes I'm not able to eat certain things and I get so much anxiety. And so my mom will make a lot of my favorite foods for days on end, because I am a very repetitive, like, I like repetition. And so, like, I like eating the same things almost every day. And so my mom would make mostly of the same things almost every single day. She still does that sometimes when I'm, like, in a cycle. And so, like, her being like, oh, Jacob is sick, and, like, making Jacob's foods every single day. Like, no person, like, normal person wants every single, like, their favorite food every single day. Like, no, you're just not gonna want to eat that every single day. But, like, in a person trying to help you mindset, they would make your favorite food every day to try to help you, try to make you eat, try to give you comfort. And I feel like that's what the mom is doing. So I feel like Jacob's favorite food must have been casserole, which I love casserole. And so that makes sense. The dad just seems distracted. When he's telling Danny how to heat the food, he rambles and his voice changes. And Danny understands, but won't say anything. So he slips into the delusion that he has a sick, but alive brother. None of this is a healthy way to grieve. Sorry for the word vomit. I like to analyze things. I love that analyzation. Like, don't apologize. That was such a good, that helped me understand, like, how I was processing the story, because, like, I could not process what was happening, honestly, because, like, I was just a little confused at first because it sounded supernatural, and I was like, why did this have to be supernatural? It didn't have to be. It feels like a mental illness, grieving type of thing. But then when you explain it like that, I kind of understand more. It's like, it was mental illness. It was curiosity that pulled Danny to that door. Like, Danny did choose to go to the door, but it was like a mental thing. Like, they had to know what was happening. They had to know if Jacob was alive or dead, because, like, in Danny's mind, they knew, you know, like, Danny knew that something was terribly wrong with her brother or his brother. Like, Danny knew that and needed to see it for themselves because their parents were acting like everything was normal. But then when Danny actually saw it, the grief hit her or hit him, and they walk out acting like everything's normal and, like, pretending in their head that Jacob is doing normal things, like jumping jacks or watching TV, you know, like, just trying to cope with what they just saw, because, like, that's a very traumatic thing to see. Like, your brother is bleeding like Pennywise from his mouth, and his body is hard and stiff, and so, like, you can't, he doesn't even respond to you. And sure, he hasn't responded to you for a long time to like his sickness, but now he still won't. And so, like, you just have to walk out of that room and pretend like everything is fine. And, like, in your mind, you can't even pretend like he's sick. Like, you have to pretend like he's well and alive and, like, being active and stuff, like the way you want to remember him, basically. And then, like, with the parents, like, the mom, I think the mom's coping mechanism would be similar to mine. Like, I would try to pretend like they're alive as much as possible, you know? But I feel like the dad is less pretending that they're alive and more like the dad is distracted and trying to be distracted. You know, like, the dad is trying to focus on everything else possible but Jacob, while the mom is more focused on Jacob and helping Jacob not be as sick. So I feel like those are two different, like, things. Like, I feel like the parents are not similar in the grieving process, but they're both similar in the way that, like, they're willing to leave the dead child in the room. Which, that is the part where I'm like, I hope I never would be like that. Like, I hope that I could grieve in a healthy enough way to at least call someone, get a funeral going, you know, like, I hope I'm not like that, where, like, I would leave the child in the room, because I honestly don't know. Like, honestly, I feel like I would be so in grief that, like, like, okay, so when I used to deal with like depression and stuff, like this is one way, like it's two very, very different scenarios, but like one way that I feel like, oh, I might, oh, like I would might be like that is like when I was like depressed and like I was sick and like I was dealing with an ED. And so like there was like one moment where I threw up due to like laxatives. Like I threw up and I was very, very ill. And I threw up on the floor in my room with carpet. And I did not clean up that throw up for, I would say, like a week or 3 days. Like a week or 3 days. Like I did not clean up. And it smelled horrid. Like because when you don't like eat a lot and you just take a bunch of laxatives, like your body naturally has a reaction to just vomit and you're sick. And so like I just threw up on the ground. Like I threw up and I did not clean it. And I kind of pretended like it wasn't even there. Like, and in my mind it didn't bother me, like the smell. And I would just keep having candles and incense and stuff. Like I didn't clean it. And I don't know why I didn't clean it. I think it was just like a mental thing. But it's kind of similar to this where I'm like, okay, I feel like if I was the mom, like I probably have the same reaction. Like I would probably just try to deal with it, because like I can handle things like that for a very, very long time, especially when I'm in such a state of mental like illness and like your child's dead, like duh, you're going to be super mentally ill. And so like I kind of relate a lot to the mom, I think, because I feel like I would probably react the same way. I hope that I have a partner that doesn't react like the dad does, and I hope they react more like how Danny did at the beginning, where Danny was just trying to figure out what was going on, and then like they would actually do something about it, not like how Danny kind of had to ignore it, which in Danny's like defense, that's the only way you could deal with it, like just pretend like everything was normal. Because like I remember like when my brother like had to go like to the hospital, I reacted the same way. I had to pretend like everything was normal in order to grieve. And so like I don't know, I feel like yes, it's unhealthy, but I feel like as someone that like cares so deeply about your child, I feel like that's the only way I could grieve. Like I don't think I could grieve any differently. Like there would be no difference there. Okay, someone else said, I don't get it. Is the brother dead or something? Someone responded, I believe that the brother has been dead for 3 days, and they were so saddened that their lies are clouding the fact that they lost their son. My guess is he had cancer or something of the sort and died from it, but they couldn't come to terms with it, with him being dead. The smell is bad from his body decaying, and the fact that the brother was rock hard means that the rigor mortis has set in over those 3 days of him being dead. Yeah, I like that people are explaining this. This is like true horror, because I feel like this could actually happen. And, like, I know this could actually happen, because I feel like this, like, if I lost a child, I feel like this would be my exact reaction. Like, honestly, like, I hope I wouldn't. And I hope that, like, if I lost a child and I had other children, that like I could be strong enough to grieve properly, like I hope. But like, okay, if you've seen like Stranger Things, like Joyce, when like Will went missing, like sure, she knew he was alive because of the lights and stuff, but like outside perspective, it was kind of similar to this, like outside perspective looking in, she was actively pretending, like yes, in the show sense she wasn't pretending, but in like real life sense to everyone else, she was pretending that Will was alive, and she was actively still trying to find him and stuff. And like Jonathan had to deal with everything. And so like I hope I'm never like that, where like my other child would be suffering due to my own grief, like due to my own problems or mental illness. Like no, I want to be healthy enough for my child to be able to cope, to be able to be strong, to be able to have healthy coping mechanisms. And I just think it's so sad that like in this story, like the parents obviously don't have a healthy mechanism, but like their mental state, like the only reason why I could not judge this family at all is like their mental state is probably so bad from like the fact that their kid even had cancer in the first place. Like that's already a toll. That was already a toll. Like already dealing with the fact that your child might die young because of cancer, and like their child is losing hair, their child is drooling from the mouth constantly, the child is in the hospital, out of the hospital, in the hospital, out of the hospital, getting treatment. I feel like that's just like the hardest thing to go through as a parent. And so once all of your like worries and fears come true and your child is dead, like you're telling me that you could just sit there and be like, you know, you're telling me that you wouldn't have some odd fucking reaction. Like, no, I think this is the exact way I would react. Like, after being mentally broken down by like the cancer and the child always going in and out of the hospital being sick, probably your money is going out of your pocket trying to pay for these treatments, and then you see your child dead in bed. Like, I feel like the only way I could grieve properly is just pretending it didn't happen, honestly. Like, pretending like they're not dead, pretending like they didn't even have cancer. Like, I think that's the only way I could grieve. And that's why I'm like, okay, I just don't think you can judge the family at all here, because I just couldn't imagine, like right now thinking about it, I'm just like, I would have to get a doll that looks exactly like, I would be that crazy. Like, I would have to get a doll that looks exactly like the dead child and pretend like the child is still alive. Like, I would still celebrate birthdays. Like, I would be that freaking insane. And like, there's horror shorts about it. There's horror movies about it. You know, like people acting like that. There's so much. But I feel like the real reason why that is so scary is because, like, honestly, it could happen. Like, you could grieve like that. Like, you could choose the most unhealthy coping mechanism because it's just such a hard thing to deal with. And like, the rest of your life, having to go on the rest of your life thinking that, like, knowing that your child is dead, I don't know if it's something I could do. And that's why I think I relate so hard to these like parents. I don't really relate to the dad as much because I think the dad knows, like, and the mom knows. I know the mom knows and like is pushing it down and pretending everything's fine. But the dad, I feel like the dad is actively grieving but doesn't know what to do about the wife, is kind of how I feel, because like the dad's eyes were swollen, like the dad was crying, but the mom wasn't crying. The mom was pretending like he was fine. And so like, if I like wasn't that mentally ill, like if I was like the dad, yes, I would go to the morgue. Yes, I would do everything to like start the process. Like, I would get the funeral going, blah blah blah, like if I was the dad. But the mom, I feel like, has such a mental delusion in her mind that the child is not alive, but like she knows, like she saw the child dead, and like her mind decided, nope, he's not. It's like when you suppress memories. Like, I have a lot of suppressed memories that I'll never remember again, probably, because like it's just something my brain does not want to remember. You know, like a lot of my childhood, can't remember, but I know that I have suppressed memories just based on reactions to certain things. Like, you kind of know when you probably have suppressed memories because like you don't remember a lot about your childhood. I feel like Danny is going to have a lot of suppressed memories, including seeing her brother or his brother, because there is no way that I would be able to handle it. And like, so I have just so many suppressed memories where I'm like, I think I would be like the mom, because I think it's very easy for my brain personally to pretend like something didn't happen. Like, something could actively bad happen to me, and my brain, like maybe like a day, maybe less than a day, would probably suppress it and find a way to convince me that it didn't happen, which, you know, isn't healthy, but it is a true way that your brain tries to cope and tries to protect you. And so I feel like that's what the mom did, because like, as a mom, I feel like you would have a heart attack. Like, I feel like you would just die on the spot as well, because there's just no way I could handle that. And then with the dad, I feel like it's less about like suppressed memories from the brain or something, and it's more like, if the wife isn't grieving it, like it's kind of hard to grieve too, which I hope that one of the parents would like man up, you know, and be like, hey, or I was hoping Danny would be able to, but Danny's a child. I didn't realize how young they were at first. I don't think the post says how young Jacob and Danny are, but it sounds like they're very young because of Danny's like perception to her brother, like flicking the ear and stuff. Like, that's what they used to do. So I would guess that Danny's like 10, 13, 8, even like very young, because like Danny even says something about like like the flicking the ear, but they also say something about like the mom forcing Danny to go into the room. And I feel like if you're older and you have more emotional capability and mental maturity, I feel like you wouldn't be forced to go into the room, and you wouldn't think that, like, you would think that's disgusting, like the puke button, like the puke bucket, and like the hair loss. You would probably think it's gross if you're young, but I feel like if you're older, I feel like you'd have more mental maturity to sit there, talk to them for as long as you could handle. You know, like, I feel like you wouldn't like think of it as a chore. You would think of it as spending time with your brother because you love him, you know? So I assume Danny is really young, and that's why they couldn't like have that strength, you know, that the parents could have if they coped properly. Someone else said, fiery red head lady, 5 years ago, I had thought when I read the part about the smell that he was dead. It was sad though that the parents didn't want to accept his death and acted like he was still alive. Then Danny did the same. I thought he was going to confront his parents about it, but he gave in to his grief and acted like his parents. Very good story. Yeah, I feel like if your parents are grieving like that, like, I know I have a lot of problems like coping and stuff because of the way like my mom copes with things, you know, and like I'll store it all in until it's like a big outburst. And I feel like you learn from your parents. Like, you learn your coping, you learn your grief habits, you learn everything from your parents. And if your parents are not being a good example, you're going to kind of grieve that similar way. You're going to create issues into that similar way. And I just think this is so sad. This is so sad. Like, someone else commented, this was 2 years ago, Cookie's Doom. I kept reading the story over and over and over. I feel this helpless of being controlled while I can only do what they want, having to force the narrative or implored. The terror invoked is something I've rarely felt. Please keep reading. Once I get my phone, I'll read your ebooks. Okay, please keep writing. This person can't write, but you know, yeah, it's fine. This was such a good story. I think that's the end of this video. It's not an hour, but the story was kind of short, and I just wanted to discuss it properly. I think that grief is so hard. Like, you can grieve things even without someone being dead or something. Like, just grieving in general is hard. And I feel like the reason why I'm such like I can't even feel like the parents are bad parents or something. It's just because, like, imagine your child had cancer for not even like a very long time, maybe a very long time to you, like maybe a year or two, and they had cancer. You were dealing with hospital visits, and you're already dealing with losing the fact that, like, Danny even says that Jacob doesn't respond, like, never, like, while like they had the illness, Jacob wasn't responding. Jacob was drooling. Jacob could barely move on their own. You know, like, we already know that from the story. Before he was dead, he was already very unresponsive. And so just knowing that already, imagine you have a child that is very unresponsive like that for a long time, and there's nothing you can really do. You know, like, there's nothing you can really do. Like, I feel like you already are losing your mental sanity, and then for the child to actually end up dead, I don't think I could react properly either. Like, I feel like what's so scary about the story is that I would probably react in the exact same way, which is terrifying, but I think I would not be able to even handle it at all. Like, your mental sanity was already losing. You know, like, you're already losing your mental sanity before due to Jacob's, like, illness and stuff, and then Jacob's actually dead. Like, I feel like there's no way to properly handle that, especially when you're already so mentally unwell, mentally trying to cope with the fact that he was sick, and now you have to cope that he's dead. Like, there's no way. Like, if it was something that happened randomly, like, I'm not saying that's easier to cope. Like, no, you're losing a child. But it's like if you weren't already mentally ill, you weren't already, like, mentally unstable, you weren't already dealing with the loss of, like, because they were already losing their child, you know, like, he was sick, he was unresponsive, like, you were already losing your child. And for a long time, like, I feel like if you like have a mental, if you have mental sanity and stability and then you randomly lose your child, I feel like that's a whole different grieving process where you could easily be more like, you could handle it more. You can pick yourself up. You can try to have the funeral. You can, like you can pick yourself up a lot better than someone that like was already losing their grip on reality from their child being sick, already losing their grip on normal day to day because like they're taking him in and out of treatment and hospital visits. Like I feel like you can grieve, like, and like they actively are trying so hard to keep the child alive too. Like it would feel like failure. It would feel like you lost your world. It would feel like that no matter what the circumstances for losing a child. But I feel like if your child was sick and you were actively trying to work towards helping your child and they still died, I feel like the reaction would be like this, honestly. Like I don't think anyone on this planet has enough mental stability or sanity to be able to handle a death of a child, like anyway, but to be able to handle it like, and you already losing your grip on reality and sanity, there's no way. I just think that's terrifying because it's like, even if it wasn't my child, even if it was like a brother or something like that, like I feel like I would react the same way, and like that is terrifying. I think that's the scariest part of the story. It's like I couldn't imagine myself reacting any different way, like I don't think I would react in a healthy manner to a death. Like I just don't think I would. But I'm also not a person very used to death about people, like the people that I care about. I'm not used to losing someone I care about, and so I just don't think I could react properly. Anyway, guys, that is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed. To everyone that listened, thank you so much. Thank you for listening to my random thoughts. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Comment down below if there's any particular story you would like to hear. And yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I really enjoyed this story. It's from user outside your window _ and it was made 5 years ago. I know I didn't say that earlier, but I felt like it was important. And I really love the story. I really do. Like, that was such a story that actually hit me. Like, most of these stories, like, they hit me, but they don't hit me for, like, a long time. I feel like this hits me because, like, I just could I can imagine myself being exactly like the mom, honestly, and that scares me because, like, having 2 children and then, like, one is dealing with something and then you kind of ignore the other child's needs, I would be terrified. I'm terrified of being that type of mom or that type of parent. And so I feel like that hit me very hard. Let me know how you feel about this story. I think this is a good story. I really like it. And come back next week. Bye, diamonds. To heaven. And rest in peace, Jacob, because that was sad. I hope this is fake.